Good evening. Our top story this week. In Florida, a CPS agent and her significant other get busted for growing dope with their kids who are all living in a dump. And now she's facing neglect and drug charges. And the Florida child protective industry even takes away her kids. In Erie County, New York, the Social Services Commissioner, who is under fire for systematic failures that have led to the deaths of children, is suggesting that they hire more CPS agents. President Obama is calling a sudden wave of children crossing the border into the United States without their parents an urgent humanitarian situation. In Massachusetts, the child protective industry isn't paying attention to the core issues behind their systematic failures. And in Indiana, the state is being sued for not paying out millions of dollars worth of adoption subsidies. In Michigan, new research by Public Policy Associates has found racial inequities in the state's child welfare system. The Michigan House approved legislation that would require videotaping of children's interviews in child abuse cases. In Vermont, public hearings begin to address the state's failure of a child protective system after a 2012 study finds them last among all 50 states regarding the way they handle child abuse allegations. In Rhode Island, the state tightens procedures for the feeding of psychotropic drugs to foster kids. And the Annie E. Casey Foundation released a report that claims Rhode Island is third in the country for placing kids in group homes. In Greece, the court rules that the custody of a little blonde girl who was snatched from a black-haired Roma family last year will go to the child protective industry. In India, children's homes in the Ukhrul district appear to be in a pathetic state. In Ireland, a woman reveals the location of about 800 skeletons of babies who are believed to be buried in a septic tank on the land of a Roman Catholic religious order of nuns, and that more than 2,000 kids who went through the home in the 1930s were allowed to be used in drug experiments. In Canada, a former foster child is suing Alberta's government for $2.4 million based on the claims that they failed to provide her with the promised therapy and hid her past history of sexual abuse from her adoptive family. And a judge from British Columbia says that too many Aboriginal kids are living in Canada's child welfare system and that they're not receiving the same funding as non-native kids. In England, a social worker who wanted to keep a kid with the real mother is suspended for a year. Another British social worker gets removed from the register for failing to properly vet foster parents. Children's directors are rallying against the British government's push to privatize child welfare, saying that doing so would lead to the snatching of more kids for profit. Cuts to the UK's legal aid program has caused a surge in parents fighting for custody without lawyers. A couple is arrested for allowing their 11-year-old son to get fat, and they're claiming that they were only rumbled by social workers when they met to discuss getting a free wet room. And a British foster mother who tortured a young girl for years gets released from prison. In Ohio this week, a former foster mother who has sexually abused kids who she was babysitting is going to trial. Another foster parent from Ohio is charged with child endangerment after a 3-year-old fell from his moving van. Another Ohio foster parent is on trial for having sex with and conspiring with his 17-year-old foster daughter who stabbed his wife to death for the insurance money, and she's giving all of the gory details as she testifies against him. And a false accusation of child abuse that was posted via a stolen cell phone on Facebook was investigated and found to have been done for revenge. In Arizona, a couple is busted for malnourishing their 2 adopted daughters and forcing them to sleep in the backyard tent, either in the nude or only in a diaper. In Queens, New York, a foster mother is arrested after a 19-month-old boy was found with third-degree burns on his legs so bad that the skin was peeling off. In North Carolina, a CPS agent is busted for driving while intoxicated while she was on duty. And in Pennsylvania, a foster care worker at a group home gets busted for having sex with a teenager. In Connecticut, they're considering moving a transgender teenage foster kids who they placed in jail to a facility in Massachusetts. In Nebraska, a real father is suing the former foster parents of his daughter for defamation of character after they put up a stink about her being returned to him when they wanted to adopt her. He's seeking compensation for damage to his reputation from the defamatory attacks on Facebook and the fact that he can't even leave his house because of news reporters camping out in his front lawn. In North Carolina, a wrongful death suit is filed against a foster parent. And finally, tonight in Florida, a foster father who is also a goddamn American fights against the injustice from a code enforcement officer by painting his house to look like an American flag, and all because somebody complained about a Christmas tree on his property. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.